The silence of a doctor's office has always been a place of tension, a void where we wait for the unknown to be named. But that silence is changing. It is becoming louder, filled with the hum of processors and the cold, unfeeling logic of an oracle that does not speak in riddles. We have long found comfort in the unpredictability of our own mortality, the belief that the future is a blurred horizon we can only reach one day at a time. But that horizon has just been sharpened into a razor's edge. Science has birthed a ghost in the machine, an artificial intelligence known as Delphi 2M, and it has already seen the end of your story. It is not interested in your hopes or your willpower. It only cares about the grammar of your decay. Imagine a life where the mystery of your health is a relic of the past. We have entered the era of the premature autopsy. Through a collaboration of the European Molecular Biology Laboratory, the German Cancer Research Center, and the University of Copenhagen, a digital god has been trained on the shattered remains of 400,000 lives from the UK Biobank. It has read the clinical biographies of hundreds of thousands of souls, their habits, their vices, their weight, and their genetic blueprints, and it has learned to predict the onset of over 1,200 different diseases up to 20 years before they manifest. This is not a weather forecast. This is a death warrant written in code. The horror of Delphi 2M lies in its lineage. It is a close relative of the large language models that have become our digital companions. Yet it does not speak in words, it speaks in the trajectory of human suffering. Just as a language model learns the grammar of a sentence to predict the next word, Delphi 2M has learned the grammar of human biological failure. It views your life not as a series of choices, but as a sequence of inevitable events. To this AI, your body is a book that has already been written. It is simply skipping to the final chapters to see which disease will claim you. It outlines a clinical history as a mathematical certainty. If you smoke, if you carry weight, if your ancestors fell to the same darkness, the algorithm calculates the probability of your heart failing, or your cells mutating with the same cold indifference a calculator uses to add numbers. We are used to the idea of probability, but we are not prepared for the psychological weight of a 70% certainty of a heart attack in the year 2045. When the machine tells you that you have a specific window of time before your body betrays you, the present moment begins to rot. Every choice you make is haunted by the digital ghost of your future self. The AI doesn't just estimate the risk, it creates a shadow that follows you into every meal, every rest, and every breath. It is a superhero of predictable diseases, cancers, sepsis, cardiac arrest pathologies with a predictable trajectory that the machine can track like a train on a fixed track. It sees the collision coming decades before the impact. But even this digital god is flawed, and in its flaws lies a deeper terror. It is particularly adept at predicting the end for those between the ages of 40 and 60, the demographic it was trained on. For the young, or for those whose ethnic backgrounds were not sufficiently represented in its cold datasets, the machine is a boomer, oracle, stubborn, biased, and potentially wrong. Yet, even a wrong prediction from such a powerful system carries the weight of a curse. If the machine tells a young person they are destined for a certain darkness, does the stress of that knowledge create the very condition it predicted? We are entering a feedback loop of digital eugenics, where the algorithm's gaze might actually manifest the tragedies it claims to foresee. Naturally, the scientists tell us this is for our own good. They speak of resource allocation, of helping healthcare systems know how many bandages the city will need in a decade. They speak of prevention, sending us alerts to eat fewer sweets because our blood sugar will crash in 5 years. But this is the language of management, not the language of living. To be prepped for a disease 20 years in advance is to live in a state of perpetual mourning for a health that hasn't even been lost yet. We are being transformed into curious cyborgs, our lives monitored by a superintelligent friend that is actually a digital reaper, constantly calculating the odds of our interstellar cold. When researchers tested this model on the health data of nearly 2 million people in Denmark, the results were consistent. The AI is comfortable with the data it knows. It prefers the predictable, the rhythmic, the mathematical. It struggles with the chaotic variables of mental health or the sudden complications of pregnancy, areas where life still refuses to be reduced to a large language model. But the goal of the architects of Delphi 2M is clear: to eliminate the variable of life until everything is a predictable sequence. They want to turn your medical biography into a bestseller, but they are the ones holding the pen, and the ending they are writing is almost always a tragedy. The discovery has been given the stamp of approval by the crème de la crème of science, described in the pages of Nature as a revolution. But every revolution has its victims. The victim here is the human spirit, the part of us that thrives on the unknown. If we can know our diseases in advance, if we can see the risk of over 1,000 pathologies looming in the distance like dark clouds on a summer day, do we truly gain time, or do we simply lose the peace of the present? The AI calculates the probability, but it is we who must carry the sentence. We are being asked to live in a world where our doctor is a supercomputer that has read every medical textbook in the universe and found our name in the index of every fatal chapter. Think of the health weather for the next 20 years. Imagine waking up to a notification that the probability of your mind fracturing into dementia has risen by 5% overnight. The machine doesn't give you a date, it gives you a weight. It tells you that life is more complicated than an algorithm, yet it continues to try and solve the equation of you. It is a step forward in predictive medicine that feels like a step into a digital panopticon. We are being tracked, analyzed, and predicted not just for who we are, but for how we will break our clinical data, our exams, our sedentary lifestyles, or the things we were told were our own business are now the raw materials for a global model of human exploration. Is it incredibly useful, or is it incredibly cruel? Perhaps it is both. In the hands of a healthcare system, it is an efficient resource planner. In the hands of a human being, it is a crystal ball that only shows the cracks in the glass. We are proof that artificial intelligence, when used well, can improve lives, making them longer and more informed. But an informed life is not always a happy one. To be informed of one's own decay is to undergo an autopsy while the heart is still beating. It is to be a patient before you are a person, a statistic before you are a soul. The distortions of the model, its boomer perspective and its ethnic biases are a reminder that we are handing our fate over to an imperfect God. It is an innovation that seems straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it is more real than ever. It is the Delphi 2M, the oracle that doesn't answer with riddles, but with cold, hard percentages. It calculates the probability of certain pathologies within a given time period. And as those percentages climb, the walls of our future begin to close in. We can hope to win the lottery of health, but the house the AI always knows the odds better than we do. We have spent millennia trying to extend our lives, to push back the darkness of disease, and now that we have the tool to see into that darkness, we find that the light it provides is harsh and cold. It reveals a future that is particularly good at estimating the risk of things with a predictable trajectory, a superhero of heart attacks and sepsis. But it leaves us to wonder why our minds, our variable courses of onset, and our internal complexities still elude the direct observation of the code. The AI admits that life is a bit more complicated than an algorithm, but it will not stop until the complication is resolved. As we look toward this medical revolution, we must decide if we are ready to live as cyborgs of prediction, to take our cosmic vitamin C because a super-intelligent friend saw a shadow in our future, to let a supercomputer that has read everything in the universe tell us everything about ourselves. It is incredibly useful, but it is incredibly unsettling. It is the end of the mystery. It is the end of fate. It is the beginning of a calculated existence where the only thing left to discover is whether the machine was right. The future of medicine is here, and it is a diagnostic journey into the darkest parts of our own biology. We are making our lives longer, but perhaps we are making them feel eternal in the wrong way, stretching out the anticipation of the end until the end itself is a relief. We are being informed, we are being pre-warned, and we are being analyzed. But in the summary of Delphi 2M, we find that we are simply a gigantic step forward in a trajectory that was never ours to control. The future is no longer a bestseller we have yet to read. It is a clinical trajectory we are forced to follow. The clock is not on the wall, it is in the code. And the code is in you. Every cookie you eat, every cigarette you light, and every hour you spend sitting still is being fed into the model. The oracle is watching, the percentages are shifting, and the health weather for the next 20 years is already being broadcast. Stay healthy, or at least try to be, but remember that the AI has already calculated the probability of your failure. The premature autopsy has begun, and the algorithm is never wrong for long. In the end, we are all just data waiting to be flatlined by the truth. Stay curious, stay terrified. The clock is ticking and the machine knows exactly when it stops.